Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
It didn't beep, but it said that it's going. So I guess, are we good or do we wait a second? Like,
Caitlin, do you mind looking at that? I think it's recording.
Yeah, it shows that it's, you see on the top left?
See anything?
Yeah.
and usually it beeps.
Yeah, it says on the top.
Yeah, it's top left, yeah.
Well, we will call to order, Planning Commission at 6:30 on February 4th, 2026. Commissioner Coulon, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Pereira?
Here.
Commissioner Bovers?
Present.
And we have commissioners online or not?
We have Steven that just joined.
Hey, Commissioner Matlock is joining us online, and I am Commissioner Teal. We will move on to item number 2, the opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items. So I think we have someone online. It's just if she would like to speak for public comment on something not on the agenda.
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hearing no public comment, we will open and we will close the public comment for non-agenda items at 6:31 and move on to item number 3, the approval of minutes from December 3rd, 2025. Do we have any? Is that right? I know. Wait, hang on. Yeah, sorry.
Shoot,
January 21st. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Am I kidding?
we will get that to you at your next meeting.
Okay, so we'll wait on that one. No, hang on.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's, yeah,
January 21st, right,
yeah.
right.
We're in February already.
So I was looking at the approval of minutes and instead of reading the appropriate thing off of our current agenda. So we're looking for approval of minutes from January 21st, 2026. I apologize.
Well, I am just recognizing that we actually didn't include it in the packet for you guys. So unless you have it somewhere else.
I
Oh, yeah, no, we have the approval. We don't have the,
Oh, yeah, there it is. Sorry, I'm
is
just,
that,
Right,
this one?
right. So page 2, so the regular meeting, action meeting minutes, January 21st.
Oh, usually it was like in a different formatting. I think that's.
I know, I
Right.
think that's why,
Right?
that's right. Because I was reading it also thinking that was the agenda and then I was,
Yeah.
wait, December, that can't be right. So yes, looking for approval of minutes from January 21st. Or any changes.
That Brian's last name was misspelled at that first line there.
thank you. Correct that. And just to note for the record, we unfortunately did not have a audio or video recording of that. So we were in the middle of transitioning. Our process on here went from previously auto recording to no longer doing that this year. And we didn't realize that. So we have the written minutes, but not a recorded minutes or audio recording.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, do we want to do a motion?
Yeah, motion for approval of the meeting from January 21st, 2026.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
I,
And none opposed unless Commissioner Matlock, okay, he's affirming as well.
My
Okay, well-
microphone was off.
I saw you nodding, but.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item number 4, the public hearing and possible planning commission recommendation for the amendments to the North End Municipal Code 1720, the binding site plan regulations. So we'll turn it over to staff and then we'll have planning commission ask questions of staff and then we will open the public hearing. So.
All right, so this is a part of the overall huge package of amendments that the state legislature has enacted to state law over the last several years, addressing housing issues. And the overall intent of all this is to make housing easier to develop so that we can address the regional housing shortage that is really facing the entire area. So the Senate passed Senate Bill 5611 in last year's legislative session. And what that does, with a number of things, is make binding site plans available for use by residential projects. So previously, binding site plans were available for condominiums, but principally for commercial development. And the intent of a binding site plan is it's like a subdivision process, but it allows for sharing of facilities. So when you have things like stormwater facilities, landscape buffers, parking, those kinds of things, when you do a subdivision, a classic subdivision, those have to be in separate track. If you're having shared facilities, they need to be in separate tracks, or they need to all be self-contained within that lot. That lot needs to be totally self-reliant. A binding site plan, on the other hand, allows sharing the facility so that you can have parking here that's serving a building maybe on a different lot. That works well for multifamily development. And so the legislature, in trying to make multifamily development easier to do, is requiring jurisdictions to now make this same process available for residential multifamily zoned property. So a pretty straightforward amendment. That's basically all it does. And then we have a few cleanup amendments in there about the name of the community development director and making sure that it's clear that this title or this chapter of code is under the authority of the community development director.
Perfect, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Was this mandated by the state? I'm just curious.
Yes.
So I was curious just what this does to parking numbers or like just general requirements. Are they the same or do they get to piggyback on each other at all?
No, all of the same parking regulations, landscape setbacks, building setbacks, et cetera, all still apply. With the binding site plan, though, with that you can share facilities. It doesn't all have to be every lot meeting its own individual requirements. It can be shared as the development as a whole. So, for example, building setbacks can be flexed within a binding site plan, but as long as you're meeting your exterior setbacks, that's what's essential.
Okay, so like open space requirements, like you could have like Central Park in New York.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's what we're going to get, but that idea.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how does it affect any impact fees? That's not necessarily our scope, but
No, that's
okay,
totally remains the same.
okay. Any other? Commissioner Matlock, did you have any questions? Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and open the public hearing on this at 6:37? There's no one present in person for this item or for this agenda. Is there anyone online that would like to speak for the public hearing portion?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we will close the public hearing at 6:38 and turn it back to the commission. Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, a second.
All right, all in favor
Aye.
and none opposed? Okay, weird.
Sorry if I jumped the gun on that.
No,
It's pretty
that's
simple,
great.
this one, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Item number 5, this is the public hearing and possible planning commission recommendation for amendments to the North Bend Municipal Code for chapter 20.08, comprehensive plan and development regulation amendment procedures.
All right, yeah, so there's a number of things that we're doing here, and you guys have seen many of our staff reports. There's always a section that talks about cultural impacts, economic impacts, and impacts to surrounding properties. But that's basically all that we have right now, and it's not really well defined what those are. So our intent with this is to add some additional criteria and then also refine what those actually mean. So cultural impacts, for example, has been a little bit vague. Does that mean somebody's out their backyard of the mountain? Is that a cultural impact? No, we're clarifying specifically what those types of impacts are, and then adding some additional criteria. So efficiency in particular, we really want to begin to think a lot about efficiency as regulations keep piling on. So the state keeps adding more and more things that cities have to do. They're not providing funds for additional staffing, so we have to make the most use of our time. And we also want to give an eye to, whenever we're adding regulations, what can we do to streamline or simplify so that we're not just adding complexity, adding process, and adding time. We want to keep it efficient. Fiscal impacts likewise. So the decisions that the planning commission makes or recommendations the planning commission makes up to council and decisions that council makes about land use can have long-term impacts to the city's financial future. So land uses, in particular, certain land uses bring a lot of tax revenue. Other land uses really don't, and maybe don't bring other benefits to the city. So this is just a way to try to capture that as a consideration point for decision making. So what does that do long-term to the city's financial health? Equity is something that we've had a number of policies that we added in our 2024 update to our comprehensive plan. And that's for considering things like displacement. How is a code amendment or a municipal or a comprehensive plan policy affecting marginalized populations? So we actually had a specific land use policy, 4.2 in our land use element, develop and use tools that consider equity impacts when establishing plans or policies for outcomes that might disproportionately impact marginalized populations. So that's exactly what we're doing with this. So it's adding additional criteria when we're bringing forward amendments for your consideration. With that said, we received a comment from the Snoqualmie tribe. The Planning Commission has that. That was specifically requesting that we add an additional criteria for cultural impacts. And we had some language about cultural impacts previously. It was kind of buried in a section that was addressing specifically map amendments. So we concur with their suggestion. It makes sense that you would also want to consider cultural impacts for broader land use decision making. So comprehensive plan amendments and development regulations. So I've added a suggested policy or criterion in yellow in the copy that you have before you, addressing that. And that's specifically about cultural resources. So this is not culture about like, I like rock and roll music. This is culture about established cultural resources. So designated historic sites, critical cultural resources that are specifically identified by the tribe. Something that's a little bit more concrete that we can then determine, is there an impact to? With that, then we staff recommend approval of this. We think this is a good decision-making tool that'll help make it easier and more clear to the Planning Commission in making recommendations forward, and then for council to make decisions on.
Perfect. Yeah, do commissioners have questions of staff?
I do have a question. One of my concerns, not because of this review, but overall concerns, is about efficiency. And so I'm glad to see that there's mentions of measuring the efficiency of our processes. So I would like some clarification of what you will use to determine whether something adds to the burden of permit approval in terms of efficiency. And if you don't have that data right now, that's great, but I'd like to at least have that data of how you plan to make that determination.
Yeah, there's not any kind of like metric to it. It's a conversational analysis or something that we would write a response to. But
Okay.
the overall idea is this regulation truly necessary, or are we just adding regulation that's going to add process?
Okay.
So in a
Great.
lot of cases, it's necessary because the state's imposing it. But
Right,
in other
right.
cases, it may be somebody's kind of pet issue, but is the juice worth the squeeze is the idea.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. It's just something that's in the front of my mind a lot in talking with people, and so it's interesting for me.
Is this part of a metric that you guys are doing before you create the staff report? Are you using these metrics as a decision on when to bring a topic to us and the council in the first place?
Well, that's our planning commission work plan.
Yeah.
That's at the beginning of the year, we review that with the planning commission. That kind of sets the agenda for, and then council approves that. That sets the agenda for what we're bringing to you. And then,
What I mean is this seems retroactive to the topic that's being brought up. This is, the staff report looks at that after it's been decided that we talk about these and make these changes to say, well, what are the impacts to that choice? I'm just wondering if internally, do you guys use these same metrics to decide when you come up with that work plan, which,
Yeah,
what things
yeah,
here.
that ultimately should be guiding our same thought processes.
Okay,
In most cases, our work plan's dictated by things that we have to do.
sure.
But there's also direction from council. There's suggestions from the public, the dockets, suggestions from planning commissioners. And so, yeah, these criteria will become a part of our staff reports moving forward then.
Did have some questions. Clarification for me on this. So this was kind of initiated as a requirement from the state. I think through this HB 1220 that they passed, which required us to include some of these policy considerations in the comp plan.
Mhm.
And this proposal is more I'm trying to figure it. I think what we're proposing here is an implementation plan, which is a little bit more discretionary on our part, how we implement to cover what we've stated as our.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I was just curious about why this would need to be codified as a law as opposed to more administrative. Like, could we achieve the same thing without having it as code, but having it as like an updated template that you guys do? Some of these, and the main reason I'm asking is for flexibility, right? So we're adding, I think, 5 more topics, 6 if you include the cultural impacts. My thinking is if it's not necessarily codified, but it's more of an administrative requirement, even if it's enforceable through a resolution specific to our commission here, we could more easily update it down the road. So say the tribe didn't come to us tonight, but comes to us in 6 months. I'm like, hey, we see you're implementing this and we wanted to add cultural impacts. It seems like it would be much easier to adapt to that if it were something in more administrative process. So my question ultimately would be, is there a strong reason why it needs to be an updated law? What benefits we're getting out of that as opposed to, and
I guess my answer to that is transparency. So the public it's much easier to see a municipal code than a resolution, which tends to get buried through the course of history. Regulations are just right there as a part of what's available to the public to look at. And so it provides the transparency and it also provides consistency over time about what you're evaluating.
And I mean, assume you would still have it, you could have it in the means where it's transparent to the public, even if it's not part of the law, I would assume.
This is the structure that we already have processes and criteria in our code. So it's just amending that as opposed to coming up with something entirely new.
Yeah, and again, I just kind of keep running into like, this is a pretty significant tool, or could be in the future, that we're going to have a learning process, and it's just a much bigger administrative burden to adjust it if it's in a law as opposed to achieve seemingly the same thing. If we have even like a couple pieces that I was looking into, is like we could have a resolution which has some legal bearing for the commission that approves all of these reports, which I think we do anyway. Plus a standardized reporting template from the staff, which includes all of these. These would go and live into that. We already currently have a requirement, I think, for the net. It must provide a net benefit to the public, which honestly, some of these seem like they would fall under that. You would just specify, in order to achieve that metric as a net benefit, you have to make an assessment of the staff on each one of these items. You can add or take away based on our learnings over time. It just seems like that makes it a lot more adaptable and flexible from our point as we adjust and need to in the future. I feel like we probably would still have a means to make it transparent to the public. I don't feel like you have to publish into law to make it available to the public to be aware of. But that was kind of my question into it. Is it necessary to be that? And do we lose something in terms of being able to adapt as we move through this process?
So we could come back at any time to change a municipal code. There's no limitation on time to do that. Like a comprehensive plan, you can only change one minimum or maximum of once a year.
Yeah.
With a development regulation, you can change that anytime to be flexible to changing needs. So.
Go ahead.
Right. Well, I was gonna say, I think it requires the city council actually to approve a change in code.
Mhm.
Whereas if we do it more administratively, we could keep it even below that level. It would be more of administrative through the commission. Like we could discuss and come up with changes to the staff template that are in this report.
The council ultimately decides anything. Process wise, even if it's something that's recommended by the planning commission, the council's going to want to know what those criteria are. So
I think too, where it is in code, you're talking about transparency and efficiency for staff. It's going to be a lot easier for yourself and future planners to be able to look at the code and the code's history to be able to implement efficiency a little bit better than having to dig through resolutions. Like it's pretty straightforward that it's in the code. You can look at it, and even looking at there is wiggle room in all of these. These are like, yes, we need to check this and we need to check this and we need to check this, but it's not specifying further requirements in that. It's just saying these are things that we need to look at.
Hello.
Thanks.
That actually brings up another topic I was going to hit afterwards, is more, as a commission, we evaluate these. These are a little vague. How are we evaluating? Is it just based on kind of our judgment as we go through the reports? There's not really a clear threshold of like what surpasses it. This gets the thumbs up, this gets the thumbs down.
right. Yeah, there's discretion to it. And again, I think it's good to not have too much specificity because everything's going to be a little bit different, but it brings a talking point to the table.
Do you have more, or do you want to think about it for a minute?
No, I mean, I think I'm personally still not convinced. I think as an administrative thing, I like the flexibility that it gives us to change it. And I don't know. I mean, I understand we can always change multiple times a year the code. It just doesn't seem, it seems like something that's not necessary at this point. I'm not making this comment to say like, hey, let's take the council out of it, but I don't think everything needs to go up to them depending on, what we're here to do.
I want to be clear, this isn't limiting to your discussion. You can consider anything in making your recommendation. This just establishes what goes into the staff report to present to you for your discussion.
And I don't think I'm changing in my suggestion the content of that staff report. My suggestion is still, we include all of this. I think this is great. And I think my suggestion is more making it adaptable if we want to change those requirements in the future, making it easier to do that.
Would that look like a striking of the entire section of 28080?
Yeah, we wouldn't have these. My suggestion is it wouldn't go into 2808. This what we're discussing. It would go into, if we chose how to implement it. I mean, it could be various ways to implement it, but administratively, it could be through the resolution at the committee level here would be, or the commission level would be just simply, we have a requirement and a legal burden to review all reports before they go to city council. Then you would have an approval of the staff format for the reports that they write, and that's where we modify the reports that they generate. Right now, I think it has 4 or a couple of points. One of those was the must provide the net benefit to community was one of those points. This paper suggests adding, I think, the 5 more plus 6 if we include the cultural. That would still all happen. It would just happen in the administrative framework that we're asking the staff to go through before they present it to us. And the requirement then would be in that form through our resolution to review it, as opposed to written in 2808.
And the reason you don't like it in the code is because I guess I'm not following why that feels like extra. If you're saying, oh, we can do these things in a resolution, how does it being in a code, like how does that?
So the resolution, the only thing a resolution would do for us here is create some sort of legal barrier for the commission to review reports. It doesn't by itself as a resolution that I would propose would not actually cover these topics. The topics then are actually discussed administratively and what's included in that staff report. So we're getting to the same end state. We want to add things that are very important to the staff report, and we want to achieve what we've said we will in the comp plan. My push on having it codified is if we ever want to change it. So the tribe has come with us and has asked us to add this additional one. If we have it in my way, that would be super quick, right? It would be a staff revision of their formatting. They do it, maybe they review it with us to add something like that. If it's codified and they want to add an additional point in here, that'll have to then get through us and then ultimately up to city council to approve it, to change the code, to have an additional one. Or maybe they remove one like environmental impacts. Maybe we decide it's not worth it because we already have a separate SEPA.
Well, the commission by itself doesn't have the discretion to be decision-making. And so this is laying out the public process by which decisions can be made. So it's important for the public to understand what those procedures to bring through decisions or recommendations and ultimately council decisions are.
Right, like we as a commission, we are a recommending body to the city council. And so we are recommending issues relating to land use. So I think that it's helpful for public or even for us, if we're looking through the code to say, okay, we know that when we're reviewing this, we're going to be assessing these things. And when the public reviews it, then they say, okay, we know that those things are going to come up. It's not saying it has to be this way or it has to be that way. If there's not environmental impacts on a certain project, then that's not something that, like, staff would say non-applicable, it's just something that would come up in the staff report. And so then if something else does come up, I mean, there's kind of a catch-all here too, and other relevant documents. So it kind of allows some wiggle room. I mean, honestly, like, I was a little stuck just with the, I want the tribe to weigh in, and they do, and I'm grateful for that. But when they're saying that they need 60 days, that was a concern as far as timing and our process as a city.
Yeah, I didn't include anything about sub-process within that. That's something that can be then determined separately. This is just about criteria that we consider.
Perfect.
So just going back to the transparency piece, does the staff format for these reports, is that publicly available?
Yeah, that's a part of the plan commission packet that goes out on Notify Me to anybody that requests it. It goes on our city website.
I think small towns especially get so much, like, I don't know, a bad reputation for like behind the scenes dealing. And so personally, I really support as much transparency as possible so that people know that, like, we're not being sneaky about the things that we're approving. We're actually trying to, get the community to be the community that we want it to be in a very legal and reasonable way.
It sounds like it is fairly there, right? Like, we're not hiding anything. Everything, I think if I'm interpreting what you're saying, like, if it is available and transparent, we send it out proactively to the public.
It is, all of it is. And this is just establishing through the public process also what those discussion points are to be in the staff report.
And does this open up in terms of creating any kind of legal exposure if we fail to do, if it's codified and we fail to do or do a substandard piece in any of these parts of the review, does it create more exposure for someone trying to get around it, like in a development or something, to push back against it?
I'm not an attorney. I don't want to speak to legal risk, but the staff would certainly amend or create our staff reports based on this criteria and evaluate each particular criterion in presenting to the commission.
I mean, I think you bring up good points. I'm glad that we're having this conversation about it.
Yeah. I think that was all the comments I had.
Yeah, other commissioners? So if there's no other comments or questions about this, I think we are looking for a motion.
I think
We need to open the hearing.
Oh, yeah.
Did I do that? No. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, so we will open the public hearing at 6:59. There is no one present for public comment here in person. So if there's anyone that would like to speak for the hearing online, this is your chance.
No, to Reaffirm what you just said. I appreciate the conversation. It was great listening to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Okay, then hearing no public comment needs or desires, we will close the public hearing at 7 o'clock and turn it back to the commission. I apologize, I didn't open that earlier. I just was thinking we were on the last one. Yep, so I think we just need a motion if anybody's ready, or we can continue if you need to think about it further.
Have we looked up, as much as like the overhead burden that this increases for the staff? Has there been any impact assessment on like what that's gonna change for you guys?
You mean adding more to the staff reports? Yeah, that certainly does add a little bit to our time. But I think the longer term impacts to efficiency by considering, with the commission and the council, then viewing these issues, I think long term makes a much bigger difference.
I'll make a motion to approve it as written.
Do you have a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. I guess I will go around. Commissioner Matlock,
I vote yes to approve.
Okay.
Sorry,
Commissioner
I didn't
Coulon?
hear a call for a vote.
I know, sorry, I'm not communicating very well here.
Yes.
So you support, and I'm in favor as well. So all in favor, and it is approved onto city council. With that, Commissioner Coulon, is that something that you would like, your perspective on it? Would you like staff to comment when they present this to the city council, or are you just?
No, I think we discussed it here. I think this is the appropriate level for it. So solid recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, we are on to item number 6, the sign regulation amendments, and there's no public hearing on this one, so I'm not going to open the public hearing on this one. I'll turn this over to Steph.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. It's great to see you all. Unfortunately, I do not have any sign regulations for you to review today. Instead, I am briefing you on the sign business survey results that we received. This happened in the fall over 2 different surveying periods. We received a total of 37 responses, just over 13% of the city's businesses. Not bad. In your packet tonight, I have included the survey summary, which basically just outlines all the responses that we received throughout the survey periods. Overall, I felt like there were some helpful things to consider with regard to upcoming regulations for sign code amendments for commercial zones. In general, one big takeaway that I found in the survey was that greater resources and information to businesses are really needed. A lot of the folks haven't applied for a sign permit recently, weren't very aware of what the sign code currently allows or doesn't allow, and overall expressed that they had dealt with some challenges with permitting and with code enforcement with regards to signs. Only about a quarter of survey respondents said that they had an issue with sign code enforcement, but nevertheless, it seems like some greater resources and information on our website could be really handy once we do updates. Other things that I took away from survey results, businesses really cared about their sizing limitations as well as their design allowances and how visible signs were from the road. All of these were things that they wanted to see more flexibilities with regards to, which I think is something that we can absolutely evaluate and consider. Businesses were also neutral or satisfied with current regulations. So hopefully with amendments being made, things become easier and more transparent to understand the sign code and use the sign code and feel like they can have a better understanding of what is and isn't allowed. So the only complaints that were really received were feelings around regulations being unclear, permitting being a challenge, and then just a desire for more flexibilities. So overall, I was fairly satisfied with the results of the survey. I'm glad that we reopened it for a second round. The feedback we received in the second round really just reemphasized what some of the initial takeaways were from the first round of survey review.
Thank you for getting back to us with this. Commissioners, do you have any thoughts, questions?
What was your biggest surprise from this?
I didn't feel like there were really any surprises.
Do you think that the changes you've made have addressed a lot of this already?
I think some of the changes that I started working on for general sign standards have addressed some of this, specifically with regard to design regulations. I think that having a more flexible program with innovative design being encouraged and having real standards associated with it makes it a little bit more of a transparent process to ask for greater flexibilities and deviations from our code. I think overall thoughts with things that I haven't touched yet haven't really changed. I feel very affirmed in the approach that I'm taking right now.
Yeah,
I have a
Commissioners.
question.
Go ahead.
When you get this feedback, do you find that some of the feedback is either not actionable or would go against the principles of our sign design itself? And if so, are you highlighting those or would you highlight those? I have an example of that. One example is the request to have a sign visible from the freeway.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's something that we want to allow, and yet it's something that is wanted by the business population. So I'm hoping that as we work through this, we don't have it as a default of everything that's asked for, we will do to their satisfaction. So I'd like to know there's some limits.
That is accurate. I believe that the state has certain regulations with regard to signs facing I-90. So we would be limited by outside factors, as well as things that would impact the general character and aesthetic of our community. There was a comment that was received in the survey that did stand out to me, which is not everybody's going to be happy. And that, I mean, it rings very true. We're going to do our best to accommodate some of these general buckets of requests, especially ones that were pretty popular. But in general, it's not going to be at the detriment of our own community.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thanks for that comment. And I guess that brings me to ask, is there anything that commissioners seeing this that you want staff to focus on or not focus on?
Not really.
So far, I've been happy with your
Yeah.
work.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your work.
Over half of people who responded to this had never encountered the sign code, so they don't know what they like and don't like anyway. Seemingly.
They're just putting up signs.
We did receive one response that requested greater flexibilities on every kind of aspect that you could ask for, and to have signs of all types allowed on their property simultaneously, which I think is maybe the only surprising or more amusing thing that I saw in the survey results.
Awesome. Well, good work. And any other thoughts? Okay, then we'll go on to item 7, which is adjournment at 7:09. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.